Hello everyone, this is part 39 of What If Naruto and Hinata trained together and a spark happened, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Rotation, Hiashi Hyuga announced, throwing his arms out. The chakra dome struck the walls of the hallway, stripping away the paint and cracking the wood paneling beneath. Madara hopped up and back, landing on the wall just above and behind the boundary of the hemisphere attack, and once it had dissipated, he charged again. Rotation, the clan leader repeated the jutsu, but Uchiha's Chunin Sharingan had already memorized the move, even if he could not reproduce it. Madara altered his momentum, throwing himself at the opposite wall while reversing direction. He barely managed to outrun the chakra circle, before turning around again. He landed on the floor, just outside Hiashi's range, and regarded his great-grandnephew more thoughtfully. So Naruto did not kill you, Hiashi stated carefully, frowning at the Akatsuki leader's attention. He came closer than anyone else ever has, including Hashirama, Madara offered. The boy rendered my original body worthless. But he didn't know my secret. Madara tapped Itachi's temple, indicating his eyes. That's why I'm here, I need a new body, the first Uchiha concluded. Hiashi's scowl deepened, the traitor had the better bait. What about that body? The white-eyed Tokujo demanded. Itachi's body. Itachi was already dead, Madara answered, and unlike certain others, I need a living, breathing body. Itachi is just a puppet. Raiten, lightning cannon jutsu. Uchiha launched a ball of lightning the size of his head at Hiashi, but the Hyuga leader ducked back into the hall from which he had emerged, and then turned and ran. I cannot fight him in these narrow halls, Hiashi decided, his Byakugan tracking Itachi's corpse as it followed him through the mansion. I have to get to the courtyard or one of the training rooms. The clan leader was hampered in his efforts by the other members of his family. Most of the Hyugas not summoned to patrol were elderly or children, but he did not expect Madara would spare them. So he was forced to track every individual and change directions frequently, to avoid leading the traitor too close to them. He hoped it looked to Uchiha like he was just trying to shake his pursuer. Finally Hiashi found himself all but trapped, and he made a painful choice. 8 trigrams empty palm, he paused to thrust his hand forward, blasting a hole in the wall before him. As Madara closed in, Hiashi jumped through the gap, falling to the dirt 1 story below. He turned and spread his arms wide as Uchiha shot out of the break. He halted his heavenly spin when he realized Madara would pass over him and land outside his range. Instead, he started signing. Doton, stone jacket jutsu, Hinata's father intoned. Kaiten, solid fireball jutsu, the immortal countered, spitting a large cloud of flames at Hiashi. The dense inferno had the secondary effect of pushing Madara further into the air, and out of range of the trapping technique. Lacking sufficient time to counter, Hyuga dove to the side, but the flames still caught the edge of his robes, setting him aflame. Suten, dousing rain jutsu, Hiashi pulled all of the moisture out of the air, dropping it on them both to extinguish his robes and the grass, but also to weaken Madara's lightning jutsu, should he try it again. Madara paused, considering his next move. He truly wanted to battle the Hyuga shinobi with taijutsu, to beat him at his own game. But Hiashi's previous action had shown he was not going to fall for that. The master of the Sharingan considered unleashing Tsukuyomi, but he also did not want to expend that much chakra. He might still need that energy during his escape, and simply animating Itachi's body was a constant, if minor, drain on his reserves. And even though Hiashi did not possess the Suijin Byakugan to reflect his Genjutsu, his regular Byakugan still gave him a slight edge, so there was a chance he might not be completely incapacitated by the technique. Madara decided to play it safe, for the time being. Suten, water whip jutsu, the jutsu copier used the water Hiashi had concentrated, and threw it back at the clan leader in a tight cord. Rotation, Hanabi's father pushed the water away again, but the concentration shift ended the drizzle. You are a one-trick pony, Madara chided his opponent, but your little heavenly spin won't stop everything. She has me at a disadvantage, each kunoichi thought, almost in unison. She is an S-rank criminal, Yugao continued her internal monologue. She would be a difficult opponent for Kakashi, Gai-san, or Lady Tsunade. I am not unskilled, but I am not at that level. In addition, she is fully outfitted, while I am in civilian attire. But I must not let her take Rei. Her eyes are dangerous, Conan considered. She is a mother fighting to defend her child. She will go to any length to defeat me. I don't have her determination. I wouldn't even be here, helping Madara, if Guki-sama had not requested it, and Nagato had not agreed. Her expression also says that she knows me. I'm sure between Jiraiya-sensei and Itachi, the Leaf must have an extensive file on me. But I do not even know who she is, or what to expect. I probably should have read the reports on Kakashi's adoption of Itachi's daughter. Conan glanced down briefly at the inside pockets of her top, appraising her supplies. It also took more chakra and paper than I expected, to break into the Uchiha estate. So I can't afford to test her too much, even if time wasn't an issue. Weapon summoning jutsu, Yugao's katana appeared in her hands, and she quickly secured the scabbard to the belt of her jeans. The Leaf Kunoiki did not draw the blade, instead she watched her opponent in an iaijutsu stance. Conan responded by drawing 5 sheets of paper from under her shirt, and started folding them together. Ninja art, paper sword jutsu, the former Akatsuki Kunoiki intoned, her white blade matching the size and shape of Yugao's weapon. Conan dropped her katana to the same position as Izuki's, though she held it by her left hip, instead of having it sheathed. The two women held the ground, each waiting for the other to make the first move. Then the crash of a collapsing building outside the Uchiha wall rumbled across the compound, acting as a signal. Both shinobi charged forward, drawing their swords into diagonal slashes. Yugao sent her chakra into the copy of the second Hokage's sword, generating the vibration in the blade. She hoped it would allow her weapon to cut through the paper imitation, but Conan's sword held. The blades met, and the women strained, but their strength was too closely matched. The Akatsuki Kunoiki placed her left hand on her sword's hilt, to try to overpower the protective mother. Yugao stepped to the left, changing the angle of the opposition, and with her free hand loosed the scabbard from her belt, and swung it at Conan's right temple. The paper user dropped under the attack, again changing the angle of their clashing blades. This allowed her to push the metal katana higher, while driving the tip of her own sword towards Yugao's throat. The Leaf Warrior broke off, hopping back to avoid being beheaded. Kaiten, Fireball Jutsu, Yugao dropped her scabbard, brought her left hand to her lips, and activated the technique without using hand signs. She spit a mass of flames at Conan, not really expecting to be able to burn the other Kunoiki's focus material, but testing the possibility. The paper katana unfolded in Conan's hand, and she added 3 more sheets. Ninja art, paper Aegis jutsu, the 8 blank pages took on the form of a large circular shield, and Conan ducked behind it. The paper barrier stopped the fireball without so much as a scorch mark. As Izuki's jutsu ended, the Akatsuki members snatched 2 of the sheets at the edge of the shield, each one automatically folding into a kunai with only a slight pulse of her chakra. She threw the daggers at Rei's mother, and the former Anbu member knocked him away with her sword. Conan followed her projectiles, the other pages twisting into a slightly longer and wider katana than before. Conan sliced high, aiming for Yugao's left shoulder, and reached into her shirt with her other hand. The Leaf Agent deflected the paper blade, dropping low and starting a leg sweep. The Akatsuki Kunoiki brought out 4 more sheets of her ammunition and formed them into a second shorter blade. She jammed the new weapon down, and scored a shallow cut in Yugao's right calf before the younger woman could halt her momentum. Yugao dove to the side, and rolled into a crouch, regarding her opponent's dasho thoughtfully. I'm going to need a stronger jutsu to burn through that paper, Izuki decided, as she blocked the kidnapper's katana, and slid away from the wakizashi, but not soon enough to avoid damage to her loose shirt. The abyssal flare would probably do it, but I don't think she will give me the chance. Getting it wet might weaken it, except I never learned water jutsu. Yugao's eyes drifted to the old well at the edge of the courtyard, and she started to form a new plan. But her distraction cost her, and Conan nearly disarmed her, katana to katana, while jabbing the paper wakizashi deep into Izuki's left bicep. Kakashi's fiancée retreated again, but this time with a purpose. As she did, the paper user unfolded her bloody shortsword, and turned all 4 sheets into kunai, launching them at the Leaf Shinobi. Now, Shikaku instructed, and Sasam pulled her threads tight, cutting into the heaviest invader. He could not move further without seriously injuring himself. At the same time, the camouflaged insects detached from the wall and swarmed over the long-haired water user. Their bites each carried a minor paralytic, and they began to feast on the trespasser's chakra. Finally, the Yamanaka father and daughter hit the two remaining enemies with mind destruction jutsus. Choza Akamaiki relaxed, returning to his normal size, and gently touched the red and purple bruise forming over his right temple. Easy enough, the deer herder noted, as Genma and Rado joined him. Let the Hokage know we have captured them, and she can send the Anbu to take them into custody for interrogation. His statement trailed off as Inoiki Yamanaka shuddered and collapsed. The leader of the intruders turned and fired a weak gravity attack at his infested ally, crushing or dislodging the beetles without harming the shinobi. Ino cried out, and fell like her father, but remained barely conscious. The feline summoner turned, slashed at the Fuma clan threads with her fingernails. Sasam's jaw dropped as the nearly unbreakable strands were cut through, releasing the last of the intruders. The water user turned on the members of Yugao's team, and gestured, incanting quietly, Sushin, water dragon jutsu. Massive waves appeared from Yuba's palms, taking the form of a giant dragon and washing over Shino and Sasam. Aburame struck one of the buildings and his colony leg briefly broke apart from the force and his wavering consciousness. Sasam managed to drive two anchors into the ground, and was not swept away by the deluge. But her choice hurt her more than if she had let the jutsu take her. The water battered her body worse than her partner's and she was forced to hold her breath longer. As soon as the jutsu ended, its user was behind Fuma. He reached for her head with his hand, and then, remembering his instructions, instead drove his fist into her side. As she gasped, already starving for oxygen, Yuba spun around, and, without leaving the ground, brought his heel down on the P-teen's collarbone. Sasam fell hard, her clavicle cracked but not broken. Sasam, Shino hissed, forcing himself forward. He kicked out with his prosthetic leg, but the long-haired invader did not dodge, believing himself to be out of range of the desperate attack. The insect limb stretched, and before it hit, bent in the middle. Shino's boot was lifted clear, and the kunai hidden in the swarm was exposed, cutting into the intruder's stomach. The water user backed away, tightly clutching his gut. Anchor jutsu, Choza Akamaiki announced, and the gravity blast from pain flowed over him without dislodging him. Partial expansion jutsu, the large Jonin punched, his right forearm fist becoming larger and heavier than the entire rest of his body. The cool-down time of the Shinra Tensei had not elapsed, and Pain was forced to block the strike with his arms. The renegade let his body go limp, allowing Choza to knock him back to limit the damage of the strike. He completed his mental count, and hit the Leaf Shinobi with another wave of force. Raiten, Lightning Cannon Jutsu, Genma intoned, firing the compact sphere of electrical energy at the muscular invader. Doton, Personal Avalanche Jutsu, Rado's attack ripped out the cobblestones behind their opponent, and hurtled him at his back with the speed of an arrow. Hellpath, Skin of Torment, the big man announced, closing his eyes before allowing the attacks to hit him. The two jutsu only inflicted minor damage to him. The lightning that should have burned through him only damaged his cloak and lightly burned his skin. At the same time, the hail of rocks failed to break his bones. One struck his neck, raising a small bump, but any other injuries Rado might have inflicted were hidden under his robe. The Akatsuki warrior's eyes snapped open, the blue circles glowing with a perverse pleasure. Give me more pain, he demanded. Shizune landed near Ino, while Shikaku sparred with Yugito. The cat-like Kunoiki dodged and feinted, trying to avoid the shadows that darted towards her. Ino, are you okay? The medic asked. She already had two nurses moving Inoiki and Sasam away from the battle, and had been informed that the neither appeared to be in serious danger, though the blonde Jonin's mental state was difficult to diagnose. His mind was like nothing I've ever seen, the Chunin panted. His mind, Shizune prompted, confused. It's like there are three minds in her, Ino explained, the mind of Yugito ni, broken, hidden, controlled, trapped behind the second mind, this incredible, feral force. But the one controlling her body. His presence is almost as massive as the shadow rock. He is there but also not there. Whole, yet split in 7 parts. The younger woman trailed off, exhausted and at a loss for words. What are we fighting? The medic asked, lifting the young woman. Futon, Pocket Tornado Jutsu. Yugao had finally made her way across the yard, though she had taken a few hits more in the process. She directed the tiny whirlwind down the well, and quickly drew her katana against, catching the paper naginator Conan had switched to using. The cyclone hit the water and sent a column of it upwards, soaking the two women. Yugao did not let her hope show, but drew back her katana, and sent more chakra into the bonded jutsu that generated the deadly vibration through the blade. She swung the long sword overhand at Conan, who grinned slightly as she blocked. The water ran off the paper as if it were metal, and the steel blade of the sword was stopped cold. Sorry, my paper resists water as well as fire, the former Akatsuki member sounded genuinely apologetic. Then she rotated her palm upwards, knocked the katana from Yugao's hand and clipping her chin. The younger kunoichi fell back, and Conan put the blade of the spear in front of her opponent's eyes. I ask you again, Conan said kindly, give me the child, and you will survive. Yugao snarled, and thrust forward her hands, shouting, Kaiten, Nova Jutsu. Conan did not have time craft her paper into a proper shield, so she just blew the palm apart. The scattered pages mostly protected her from the first sphere of flame, though her left bicep and the right leg of her pants both suffered mild singes. Nagato's lover jumped back, bringing out enough pages to block the next two explosions. The kidnapper recognized she could have beheaded her opponent, but in that case the fire technique would have destroyed her as well. She was willing to let me finish her, if I died too, the origami expert recalled her earlier thoughts. She brought out the rest of her paper, and covered her skin in a layer of it. The few sheets not used in her armor became a ziphos, and Conan pointed the blade at Yugao, as she landed standing over the younger woman's katana. I understand, she blue-haired woman noted, no more mercy. I have a job to do, and you have a daughter to protect. Earth-style, collapsing fault jutsu. The ground opened under Yugao, and the prone woman was almost nimble enough to avoid the technique. But her right leg was snagged when the fissure closed, and her knee was yanked painfully as her jump abruptly stopped. Conan charged, and Azuki started signing instantly. Raiten, double thunder, she proclaimed, pointing her right hand at the ground, and her left at Conan. 2 lines of lightning appeared, though only one was successful. Yugao freed her foot, but the bolt that struck the paper user broke on her convex sword and did not slow her. Kakashi's lover cast about for a jutsu to use against the kidnapper, but Conan was too close for her to sign anything powerful enough to have a chance. She moved to block the ziphos, preparing to sacrifice her left forearm to gain a few more seconds to find a way to save her child. She raised her limb into the path of the horizontal slashing paper blade. Azuki tried to turn her body out the way, but was slowed by her injured foot. A figure appeared before her, and the leaf-shaped paper sword clanged off the metal post. A second shadow hit Conan in the ribs, driving her back. Anko, Aruka, Yugao's voice echoed with relief as she recognized her teammates. And here I was going to yell at you for hanging up on me, Mitarashi scolded her friend, before helping Azuki stand. Team Hisashi faced her as one, as Conan recovered, watching him uncertainly. Hisashi fell back, panting. His right leg was seriously burned, and he shifted most of his weight to the other limb. As promised, Madara had shifted to using advanced fire and lightning type jutsu, negating Hyuga's water and earth techniques, and too powerful for the heavenly spin. Uchiha had continued to remain out of range of the rotating jutsu. The clan leader was growing tired, and this new injury would slow him down further. Hiyashi's only compensations were that he had managed to avoid the worst of the attacks, and Madara was expending more chakra than he was. Father, a high, clear voice rang out, and a slight form landed in front of him. Hanabi, Hiyashi's surprise quickly turned to fear. What are you doing here? You were supposed to be patrolling the village. I was, indisposed and distracted when the call came in, Hanabi answered evasively, not lying but not admitting she had been showering with her music turned up. As I was leaving my room, I saw Hariko's body, her voice trembled slightly, so I decided to investigate. Is that Itachi Uchiha? I was told he was killed. That isn't Itachi, Hiyashi shook his head, it is someone else using his form. Madara let them talk, his eyes hungrily appraising the tween, a fact her father did not miss. Hiyashi remembered Uchiha's stated reason for being there. Hanabi, get behind me, Hiyashi said, pointing his left foot south. His daughter blinked at him. Father, I can help, she said derisively. Now, daughter, he barked, angling his injured leg east. He pointed at her with his right arm, incidentally towards the north, and then swept his left arm away, ending with it pointing toward the falling mid-afternoon sun. The girl's eyes widened, and she quickly complied. Itachi's eyelids narrowed, partially covering his hovering eyes. You will not take my daughter, Hiashi snarled, all of his remaining chakra glowing visibly through his flesh and robes. 8 trigrams, angelic molting. He shouted. Hiashi focused all of the spears forward. The barbs of energy shot forward, impaling Itachi's body over 100 times. Some of the pikes even passed out the other side of the controlled corpse. As Hyuga's chakra ran out, the pikes disintegrated and Madara collapsed. Exhausted, injured, and out of chakra, Hiashi fell to his knees. Father, Hanabi crouched over him, openly concerned. Then a hollow laugh met their ears, and father and daughter instinctively lifted their heads to look. Madara rose to his feet. That is a very impressive technique, his voice wheezed from the new holes in Itachi's lungs. Black fire danced around his eyes, where he had used a touch of Amaterasu to protect himself from spikes. Once I have the Byakugan, I look forward to using it. Can't have her. Hiashi tried to pull himself upright. Incorrect, Madara began signing, then announced, Kaiten, Kagu Suchi. He pointed his right hand at Hiashi, his fingers curled slightly. Yellow flames emerged from his thumb, an orange flare shot from his pointer, a red inferno roared from his middle finger, a blue conflagration exploded from his ring finger, and a white blaze flowed from his pinky. The 5 fires merged and burst over Hiashi's body. His hair and garments scorched away, and the Hyuga clan leader dropped to the smoldering grass. Dad! Hanabi shouted, tears streaming down her face. She charged toward Madara, who smirked at her in amusement. Tsukuyomi, the Shanin Sharingan flared, and the girl froze in her tracks. Her eyes widened in raw terror, and she let out a weak whimper. Her knees gave out, and Madara caught her gently as she fell. Genma and Rado crashed down in front of Shizune, unconscious. The medic stopped short of launching her needles, so she wouldn't hit the Tokujo cousins. Their extra-large opponent charged towards Shino and the long-haired invader. He knocked Aburame away, putting out the young man's lights with a single surprise blow. The Naraka path grabbed Yuba's shoulders, and a pool of blue-black flames formed around the water user. They flowed up over the former waterfall ninja, and started burning the injury that threatened to spill the human path's intestines. But instead of charred flesh, the flames left behind unmarked skin. Yugito lashed out, her forearm and hand turning into a tiger's paw. Shikaku jumped back, but the claws snagged his vest, and spun him around. He jumped forward as his training dictated, which saved him from her left-handed follow-up strike. He sent shadows back blindly, but the former Jinchuriki avoided them. The deer herder faced her again, pulling in some of the water that had been unleashed by Yuba, firing a quick bubble burst jutsu at the animal path. Choza collapsed to one knee, as pain steadily increased the gravity under him, quadrupling, then quintupling the sturdy Jonin's weight. He appeared fascinated by Akamaiki's struggling. Does it hurt? He asked, almost innocent in his curiosity, are you in pain? Another set of eyes fell on him, taking in the whole battle, and the medic's work, and a handful of the other Chunin and Tokujo around her. Hiroko Hyuga focused on the 4 invaders, fascinated and horrified by what she saw. She opened her phone and dialed quickly. After a few quick conversations, she was put through to the Hokage. Cursebreaker, what is it? Tsunade tried to control her tone, respecting the younger woman's self-control and insight. All reports indicated the battle was not going well, and she was trying to determine who to send in next. Those intruders, the Hyuga Kunoichi began uncertainly, they are unnatural. Each one has 2 chakra signatures. But not like a Jinchuriki, both appear human. But the thing is, both energies are strange as well. The first set of chakra is the same in each of them, as if they were the same person. But they don't appear to be clones, either. And the second signature. Each one is unique, but they all have something in common. They are all frayed and fractured. I've seen it once before, when I watched my teammate's life end with my Byakugan. This is what happens to someone chakra network as they die. Hiroko. Tsunade sounded as disturbed as the Hyuga scout. Then someone behind the Hokage said something that the Cursebreaker couldn't hear. Hiroko, since I have you, the Sanin sounded relieved, go in there, and have Shizune get Shikaku and the others out of there. Reinforcements are inbound. Dynamic entry. A voice roared, and a foot slammed into Yahiko's ear, disrupting the jutsu that was starting to crush Chose's insides. At the same time, a Manriki Gasari wrapped around Yugito's wrist, pulling her away from Shikamaru's father. The four paths of pain all turned to face the new arrivals with matched expressions of triumph. Naruto, I've asked you not to do that. Kakashi shook his head at his student, as Sakura handed Hinata's weighted chain back to her. The renowned knucklehead just grinned at his teacher. Naruto Uzumaki, Pain's Deva Path said with smug satisfaction. As the two teams stared each other down, Shizune and Hiroko Hyuga moved in swiftly and silently behind Pain and extracted Shikaku Nara and Choza Akamaiki. And I hear your pain, the leader of the Akatsuki, the blonde Tokujo countered, his mirth instantly switching to controlled fury. Kakashi's eyes narrowed at the attention focused on his apprentice. Yes, all four invaders answered in unison. Sakura and Naruto both frowned in annoyed confusion. Hinata activated her Suijin Byakugan, and immediately picked up on what her great-aunt had seen, though the younger woman was unaware of the significance of the damaged, second source of chakra in each figure. You are all pain? Kakashi asked evenly. Like the Hokage, he had recognized the face and figure of Yugito Ni. Just as there are 6 realms into which a soul can be reincarnated, Yahiko's body confirmed, there are 6 paths of pain. Thus, we are all pain. Again Nagato's subdivisions spoke as one. You don't seem too surprised, Kakashi-sensei, Sakura noted. That woman is, or maybe I should say was, Yugito Ni, the copy ninja explained, and both Hinata and Naruto recognized the name without his continued explanation, the Jinchuriki of the Two-Tails Cat Demon. She died when Ni was extracted, yet here she is, with a few modifications. Most notably the Rinnegan. So pain took over her body. Naruto growled angrily. I resurrected her, as a part of me, the animal path answered, she was too powerful, and her connection to the animal realm was too strong. I had to have her. That's disgusting, Sakura snapped. Better than an uncertain fate on the wheel of karma, Yuba, Pain's human path counted. Where are the rest of you? Kakashi asked. There is no need for you to know that, the Deva path answered, you or your Hokage, who I am sure is listening. Why are you here? Hinata demanded softly. She and Kakashi both caught the flicker of worry across their opponents' respective brows. Recruiting, the Deva path finally answered, my Ashura path was not as powerful as I expected. And I decided, who better to represent the demon realm than the Jinchuriki who destroyed my plans. Liar, another voice growled, and Kiba Inuzuka staggered into the intersection. You said you were happy Naruto wasn't here, it would make things easier. The four paths frowned in unison, and human path broke off towards the injured Chunin. His right arm reached for the dog trainer's head, but Naruto appeared between them, and smashed Yuba's wrist with Kitsune. Uzumaki's teammates took it as their signal. Sakura barreled into the Naraka path knocking the muscular shinobi back. 8 trigrams, empty palm, Hinata thrust her right hand at the Deva path. Shinra Tensei, he countered, and the gravity strike barely overwhelmed the Hyuga technique, pressing Hinata back a few feet. Fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu, Kakashi blew a barrage of small fireballs, focusing most of them at Yugito, but allowing some to fly close to Yahiko as well. Fire absorption, the animal path countered with a quick set of hand signs, pulling Kakashi's energy into her body. The Deva path simply avoided the flames targeting him, moving closer to Hinata but also glancing over at the former waterfall ninja. Kakashi, Shizune's voice seemed to emerge from the air beside his left ear. Shikaku wants me to warn you that the guy Sakura is fighting has some sort of healing power. Shino disemboweled Yuba, the one with the long hair, and the big one restored him in a matter of seconds. The copy ninja nodded as the genjutsu ended. Kiba, are you okay? Naruto asked quickly, keeping the staff blade between his comrade and former waterfall ninja. The long-haired human path regarded Uzumaki angrily, cradling his injured wrist. I'll live, Inuzuka barked harshly, then somewhat contritely offered, but these guys took down me, Akamaru, Choji, Shikamaru, and Temari without breaking a sweat. So you had better not underestimate them. Don't worry, we'll take care of them, Naruto grinned smugly. He stepped in, swinging Kitsune's blade at Human Pain's head. Yuba gestured, and a lens of water intercepted the weapon. The blonde Tokujo quickly sheathed his staff blade, and placed his hands together, stating, Shadow Clone Jutsu. 4 versions of the teen surrounded the former waterfall ninja, each launching a different punch or kick, both to try to overwhelm him and to learn how he fought. As the Narutos put space between their fight and Kiba, a slender young man in medical robes slipped in and extracted the injured dog trainer. Sakura's attacks appeared ineffective against the Naraka path. He did not block or dodge, he merely took every hit with a grimace of pain. Blows that should have shattered bone and ruptured organs did not inflict any visible damage to him. After taking her first few punches, he struck out in return, and Sakura blocked easily, surprised his blow wasn't more powerful. She kicked at his stomach, barely moving him, and he swung again, this time noticeably stronger. After delivering a back fist that should have caved in his skull, he launched a left jab with substantially more speed and force than he had previously exhibited. He's getting stronger from my attacks, she shouted, so her allies would be privy to her realization. Then the medic requested, Hinata, switch with me. The gentle fist user complied happily, on the verge of being crushed by Yahiko's attacks. As the two kunoichi crossed paths, the pale beauty whispered, he was mainly using jutsu that control gravity to push or pull me around. Your strength should make it easier for you to resist. Sakura nodded as she darted towards Deva Pain. Based on her friend's advice, she decided not to summon her axe. Instead she struck the ground, cracking the cobblestone street under Yahiko's feet. Arms of paper, holding kunai of the same material, were knocked aside by twin staff blades. Conan's eyes darted from Anko to Iruka and back. She had removed the sheets that she had been using as armor, and formed them into an extra set of limbs, twice the length of her flesh appendages. She also had split her Naginator into 4 slightly oversized kunai, holding one in each hand. Are you alright? Iruka asked, glancing back at his wounded teammate. Yes, thanks to you two, Azuki observed the fight carefully, readying herself to strike. Anko had already kicked her katana back to her, and the younger woman had sheathed the weapon. Anko was worried when your phone suddenly was cut off, Yumino explained, smiling slightly at his lover, Kaiten, fire trace jutsu. Why are you fighting one of the Akatsuki? Anko barked, already suspecting the answer, but wanting to change the subject. She swung her weapon horizontally as Conan danced out of the way of Iruka's streams of flame. Mitarashi should have hit the intruder, but the paper arms snaked out and cushioned the blow. She is here to take Rei, Yugao confirmed, her ire rising again. She signaled her friends with sign language and eye movements, and the other members of Team Hisashi dipped their heads slightly in acknowledgement. Conan tried to capitalize on the momentary distraction, and jumped at Anko with all 4 blades extended. But Iruka was faster than she expected, and he caught her left ankle with his weapon. The weak attack disrupted her path, if only enough for the snake charmer to block one of the paper blades and avoid the other 3 stabbing kunai. For the first time, Conan regretted not having her Akatsuki cloak. The robe may have represented her forsworn position as Madara's underling, but she reluctantly admitted to herself that it allowed her to carry more paper than her chosen uniform, and was slightly better armored. She landed, and turned to face the 2 melee attackers once more, putting a little extra weight on her right leg. Both Anko and Iruka charged her again, Yumino aiming for her head, and Mitarashi targeting her left hip. Conan blocked with her paper limbs, but the couple was ready for that. Each shifted to a one-handed grip, and raised their left hands, palming then releasing a quartet of shurikens. The paper user yanked back her artificial limbs, wrapping the sheets around her stomach and bust to stop the 8 throwing stars. Hisashi's students completed their admittedly weakened melee attacks, lightly striking the kidnapper's right ear and left thigh. Sensing her opening, Yugao started to sign. Staggered by the mild concussion, Conan prepared to stab at her attackers with lances of her treated wood pulp. But before she could, they vanished behind her, and then caught her arms, trapping them at extension against the poles of their staff blades. Conan admired the attack briefly, it would have neutralized most shinobi by limiting both their movement and hand signs, while also offered the duo an opportunity kick at their victim's chest, back, and legs. She shifted her paper around her torso, preparing to show them that the trick wouldn't work on her. Kaiten, Abyssal Flare Jutsu. Yugao intoned, and Conan's eyes widened in fear as she recognized the mistake had been hers. Sakura Haruno dug in her feet, sending chakra out to adhere to the street beneath her, and increase her connection to the earth underneath that. Pain's Deva incarnation sent a stronger Shinra Tensei at her, but the Jonin medic bore through the shift in gravity, unmoved. She had already observed that his jutsu required at least 5 seconds between uses, seemingly more if the attack was stronger. After the wave ended, she lifted her left foot and stomped the ground. Seesaw jutsu, she proclaimed, and as the cobblestones under her feet sank, an exponentially larger and taller portion of the intersection shot up under Pain. Bansho Tenon, Yahiko pointed his left palm at Sakura as he was projected into the air, pulling her after him. The pink-haired teen briefly showed surprise at the inverse technique, but she recovered and drew a kunai as the distance between them closed. Just before she reached him, as he started to fall, Deva Pain thrust his left hand back at Tsunid's apprentice, proclaiming, Shinra Tensei. Gravity reversed violently for the kunoiki, yanking her back towards the street with great speed. The sudden change in inertia strained her limbs painfully, and caused her eyes to become unfocused. She forced her attention back into place, and as she fell caught the stone pillar she had created, using it to slow and then arrest her fall. As she stopped 5 feet above the ground, clinging to the rock with her right palm and foot, she threw the kunai at Pain left-handed. Not expecting her to recover, the Deva path was caught unaware, and the dagger buried itself deep in his right shoulder. Yahiko landed beside the earthen column and stared up at her with a tiny bit of respect. Suten, Sea Turtle Jutsu, Yuba created a thick shell of water, stopping Naruto's Odama Rasengan. The boy and the clone broke apart, abandoning the failed attack while the 2 other copies moved in from behind. One aimed a kick at the back of the human path's neck, the other at his knees. As they struck, Yuba exploded in a mass water. A water clone. The real Naruto noted, glancing around. When did he? One of the copies stammered. Where is he? Another Uzumaki demanded. Hyoten, Ice Prison Jutsu, the water around the 2 clones began to creep up their legs, freezing solid. Before they could be trapped, they ended themselves, sending their energy and knowledge to the original Uzumaki and the remaining copy. At the same time the last duplicate turned and fired a kunai at where Yuba's voice had been. The knife hit the wall of water, which both guarded Pain and bent the light around him, rendering him invisible. The liquid stopped the dagger, though it would have missed him anyway. Suten, Hand of Waves, the former waterfall shinobi disrupted part of the barrier to gain the ammunition to push Naruto back and hopefully destroy his clone. While the teen was distracted, Pain planned to move his human path to a new hiding place. Instead both of the teens exploded in plumes of chakra, and Yuba's gifted Rinnegan widened. Did you think that would let you hide from me? Uzumaki roared, dropping down from the top of the column guarding the water user. A Rasengan flashed in each of his hands as he descended on Pain. Hinata ducked under her opponent's beefy fist. His blows still contained the strength he had obtained from Sakura, and Gentle Fist Expert knew it would take one direct hit to finish her. She had already deflected one punch with Ginmaki, and despite the coat's padding of both cloth and implanted jutsu, her right wrist was numb and that elbow stung from being twisted out of the way. She observed the odd flow of chakra around his body, attempting to determine what the jutsu surrounding him did. As she sidestepped a vertical knife hand, she decided she had reached the limits of simple observation and needed to experiment. Naraka Pain swung his right arm, aiming his wrist at the pale beauty's neck. He kept his left arm back, ready to fire it if she dodged within his range. Instead Hinata hopped away, and lightly tapped her glowing index finger on the point between Pain's second and third knuckles. His wide face exhibited shock as his hand partially unfolded, the chakra flow to his ring and middle fingers blocked. He stepped forward to add both power and reach to his left hand as he aimed it for her skull. She turned into the strike, her fingers settling briefly on 3 tenketsu in his extended wrist, and then she spun the rest of her body around to gingerly press her elbow, wrapped by the energy of the Gentle Fist, into his solar plexus. He coughed as she drew back, and few flecks of blood wet his lips. How? He demanded, this path's voice deep and harsh. I don't fully understand how you are protecting yourself, Hinata answered, but it appears to react more to forceful attacks. He growled and clenched his fists again. Then he took a deep breath, and forced himself to relax. He took comfort in knowing that under other circumstances, this would be a different fight. Kakashi and Yugito circled one another, watching carefully. Upon learning he was fighting Pain, Hitaki had raised his headband, and his Sharingan carefully recorded her moves. The former Jinchuriki sniffed at the air, taking in her opponent's confusion and curiosity. But she in turn wondered why the normal fear scent did not accompany his emotions. What are you hoping to discover, observing me like that? The female Pain asked sweetly. Is any part of you Yugito, or are you all Pain? The copy ninja answered by offering his own query. She countered by signing quickly, wrapping her fingers and nails in long claws of blue flame. Kakashi raised an eyebrow as he avoided her attack. Knowing her jutsu does not make you her, he shook his head, crafting his own seals, water style, sea turtle jutsu. He illustrated his point by copying Yuba's technique, blocking the fire talons. The two jutsu neutralized each other in a cloud of steam. Kakashi charged through the heated mist, aiming his foot at her midsection. Yugito's body skittered back, landing on all fours, facing him. She hissed at him, showing slightly elongated canines. The nails of both her fingers and toes grew as well, and she pounced on him. The Leaf Jonin was caught off guard by the feral attack, but managed to throw her off before her claws bit too deeply. Still his left cheek and jaw stung, and he could feel the blood running down his right arm. I still don't buy it, he shook his head. Yugito was supposedly very loyal to the Hidden Cloud Village. If she had any control, she wouldn't be here now. Unless you really are working with the Raikage in some fashion. Pain's animal path snorted, but Kakashi could tell he had struck a nerve. Unfortunately, Minato's student didn't know which nerve he had struck. Yugito's arms continued to lengthen, and she charged him again, now more of a quadruped than a biped. Hitaki also noticed her ears. The tips had grown longer and more pointed, but they were curled back by the metal bar connecting the points to her lobes. The copy ninja swept her aside, but her rear claws tagged his ankle. Yuba wanted to dodge, but he could not. The doubly defensive jutsu trapped him as well as keeping others out. Naruto was above the human path, and Pain did not have time to sign an earth jutsu to escape through the street below. He ended the barrier, pulling in the water as well as he could without a real technique, hoping to would slow Uzumaki as little. As the liquid hit the teen, Yuba dove recklessly to the side. The first Rasengan scattered the water easily. There was not enough power or form to the chakra holding the water to fully destroy the spiraling sphere. Naruto drove the second sphere forward, even pouring a little more of his energy into it to compensate for the loss of his dual strike. The human path was no longer dead center in his view, but he had no fully escaped the blonde youth either. Rasengan! Naruto shouted needlessly. He ran the sphere down the back of Yuba's right leg, grinding the muscles down to the bone, until he met Pain's knee. The whirling orb engulfed the joint completely, and as the jutsu ended, the human path's lower leg fell in a different direction than the rest of his body. Ignoring the injury, Pain returned unsteadily to an upright stance, facing his attacker on only one leg. Hinata, keep your opponent there, he can heal Pain's other bodies, Kakashi ordered, ducking under Animal Pain's leaping stab with all four sets of claws. The white-haired Jonin rolled forward to avoid Yugito's backwards kick, incidentally placing himself part of the way between Hinata and Naruto. The Hyuga heiress nodded, diverting her fingers from Naruto Pain's chest to his hips. Pain's Deva Path attempted to use his gravity attack to dislodge Kakashi and Hinata, but Sakura took advantage of his distraction, burying a kunai between the bones of Yahiko's left forearm, and then driving her elbow into the back of his skull as she continued past him. Let's see him heal this, Naruto exclaimed, spawning a single copy without a word or gesture. He held his hand above his head, and an orb of turbulent silver chakra appeared above it. Yuba's face twisted in fear, and the other three Pains looked angry and worried. The revived waterfall ninja began to gesture rapidly, but his hand seals were too late. The shadow clone had finished drawing the sphere out into a disc, and Naruto brought his arm down. Fuyuten, Rasenshurikkenn. The two Uzumakis roared, projecting the chakra star at Pain's human path. Water was beginning to congeal in front of Yuba, but the Rasen Shuriken passed right through the incomplete shield. It struck Yuba, engulfing his body, shredding it first to the cellular level, and then even destroying those cells. For a brief instant, Yuba's face showed a contented smile, and then he was gone. The clone disappeared a second later, and Naruto grinned triumphantly at the other six shinobi. Pain's three remaining bodies went from shock to rage in an instant. The Naraka and animal paths began to attack with much greater speed, force, and accuracy, maneuvering Hinata and Kakashi until they were back to back. They tried to capitalize on the Leaf Ninja's sudden restriction in mobility, but Hinata just smiled at him triumphantly. 8 trigrams palms in folding dome, she proclaimed, and the altered version of the heavenly spin knocked both of the invaders away without touching Kakashi. Naraka Pain stood quickly, unharmed despite being knocked around, while Yugito was more slow to recover. Yahiko's Rinnegan locked onto Sakura, the blue rings pulsing even faster at Hinata's minor success. He placed his hands together, pointing his fingers at the pink-haired Jonan's midsection. Shinra Bansho, he intoned darkly, pulling his hands slowly apart. Sakura froze, her eyes widening in surprise, fear, and finally pain. She let out an anguished cry, and wrapped her arms around her stomach. Pain's technique lifted Haruno slightly into the air, and Hinata's eyes also expanded in terror, as she observed what was happening inside her teammate. Naruto started to run towards Deva Pain, and Nagato's consciousness was struck by how much the young man resembled his leader. In that heartbeat, he recalled Guki's request for the mission. Pain suddenly shifted his hands, aiming at Sakura's left shoulder instead of her torso. The medic followed suit, releasing her stomach and grabbing her left shoulder with her right hand instead. Just before Naruto reached him, the Deva path violently separated his hands. Sakura's scream pierced the ears of her teammates and the observing medics, as her left arm was torn off her body. Pain released his jutsu, and the girl and her limb both fell to the ground. "You god's damned bastard," Naruto howled, his form changing instantly. His real tail and 4 chakra extensions whipped violently behind him, and before Pain fully understood, Naruto's claws were wrapped around his neck. "Shinra Tensei," Yahiko croaked, but the gravity attack did not even budge the Ascendant Fox. Behind them, the healers quickly moved in. Shizune lifted Sakura, while a white-robed young man collected her arm, enacting a jutsu to preserve the appendage. For the first time since the 4 Pains began their attack, Shizune did not pass the wounded shinobi to another medic. She darted towards the hospital, carrying her junior herself. "Shinra Tensei," the Deva path said more forcefully, placing both hands against Naruto's chest and sending more chakra into his jutsu. This time he dislodged Uzumaki, but the fox's claws tore off strips of skin from Yahiko's throat as they were pried away. "Fuyuten," Tornado Lance Jutsu, Naruto snarled as he was thrown back. Deva Pain narrowly avoided the broad spear of chakra. "Hinata, switch with me," Kakashi whispered. "You know that normal attacks don't work on him, right?" The young woman's eyes were on Naruto, though her attention was still split between the 3 remaining Pains. "I noticed," the Sharingan bearer said. "In fact, I'm pretty sure I know what he's doing. I can take him out of the fight." She nodded and shifted her stance towards Yugito, but her face did not move. "If it had been you," Kakashi reassured her, "Naruto would have killed all 3 of them by now." "I'm not jealous," she said softly, "I'm worried about him." "Worry after we finish these guys." "Yes, Sensei," she nodded. He turned his attention to the larger man. "Well," the Naraka path asked, curious. "When you get hit, it hurts you, but doesn't injure you," the copy ninja noted. "You feed off the pain." And the large renegade looked confused, not understanding what difference that knowledge made. "And I am willing to bet the reverse also applies," Kakashi speculated, starting to sign. "Ninja art, shiatsu fingers," the copy ninja said, almost kindly. Pain's unique eyes widened as the genjutsu eased his muscles, waves of relaxation washing over him. His eyes crossed blissfully, and then he blinked once. He tried to bring his hands together, but he moved oddly slowly. "Release," he finally said, and his expression cleared. His Rinnegan locked on Kakashi with a hint of anger. He punched at the Leaf Fighter's head, but the attack had no more power than before he had taken Sakura's hits, and Kakashi dodged easily. Ninja arts, anesthetic jutsu, Hitaki covered his Sharingan as he launched his next attack. The rage drifted from Pain's eyes, and his shoulders hung limp. All feeling flooded from his body as the medical jutsu flooded into his brain. "Now," Kakashi mumbled to himself, focusing on keeping the illusion running, "you and I can just stay here while those 2 take care of your friends." Nagato grimaced as the glancing blow from the Rasengan fed back into his real body. Even if I were allowed to go all out, my paths might not be able to beat these three one-on-one, he pondered, amazement almost masking the fear in his voice. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.